inside, don't wanna feel it. Yeah. So I pour up inside my cup and I just sip till I can't feel it. I know it won't solve my problem, but I know it makes a difference. One more sip and I'ma fix it. Out my body when I'm...
Earlier this week, I received a question on my Facebook page from a loyal subscriber. And I thought, I'm going to answer this question by video. And I'm choosing to answer it by video because a lot of you have asked a similar question. And it has to do with credit card authorization versus a credit card sale, and when the customer is confused. How do you respond to that in such a way that you bring down the temperature, you guide the customer to the next steps, and they don't feel that they need to escalate or go to their bank and dispute the charge? So we're going to take that question on. I love it when you all reach out to me with your questions, and a lot of you do. I get questions every week from you all right here on YouTube or my LinkedIn learning page, my Facebook business page. And very often you that have sent in questions know I will answer you right there directly where you reach out to me. A lot of times I will take your questions like I am today and turn that into a YouTube video, or a couple of times recently I've done a YouTube Q&A session where I take several questions and answer them. I'm only able to do one today. I am going to wrap this up and then go into my very next meeting. But thank you. Thank you every time you send in a question. Thank you to everyone who does that. All right, let's get right to it. Sheldon's question. Sheldon wrote in with a question. He asked, can you help me with some scripting for authorization holds for non-existing orders? Let's say a hold is a week old and is $87. Customers get upset that I can't clear the hold ASAP and sometimes dispute the charge before it drops off. They get mad most times. All right, here's how we are going to approach this very sensitive situation. We are going to lead in with empathy. We're talking about money, and people are funny when it comes to their money. You are, your customers are, I am. We get funny when it comes to money. So we're going to show in one sentence that we get it, that we understand that frustration. Then you are going to explain what's going on and what the customer can expect using my 3-step method that I call the 3W method. Let's take a look. The body of the interaction with the customer for this situation is going to follow my 3-step framework, which is here's what we know, here's what we've done, here's what's next. I often refer to these 3 steps as the 3W method because you are explaining what. So that's the W, what in each of the 3 steps. Before you go into the 3W method, I want 1 or 2 sentences of empathy because, again, people are funny with their money and you want them to feel heard. You want to make the person feel understood. You want them to know you get it. So here's how I might approach empathy in my lead in. Hello, Myra. I apologize for any misunderstanding. Credit card authorizations can be a bit confusing. That is the perfect empathy lead in, just 2 sentences when you count the introduction, hello Myra, 3. You don't need to say a lot, but you do need to convey empathy, particularly in a situation where you know people can get quite mad. You said that in your question. People will get angry when it comes to money. I use the word confusing here because I think that's exactly what it is. Although, we've all had authorizations and we should know the difference between a sale, a charge, and an authorization. Not everybody does, especially in your scenario when the order didn't even complete. So you want to acknowledge that. So I really like this. I'll read it again. Hello, Myra. I apologize for any misunderstanding. Credit card authorizations can be a bit confusing. I read it again because I want you to catch my tone. I'm literally leaning in as I say that, which is what I picture you doing. Leaning in. toward your phone, toward your computer, as you type, as you talk, or if the person is in front of you, as if to make this a more intimate and genuine conversation. After your empathy lead in, which is usually no more than 1 or 2 sentences, then we get right into the 3W method, and the steps do go in order. So here's what we know. The amount you are seeing is just an authorization and not an actual charge. That's all you need to say. Now, in general, I try to leave the word just out of my vocabulary. It's kind of like the word but. When you say but, it kind of negates everything that came before it. When you use the word just, it minimizes what you say after that word. And so it can be a credibility robber. But in this case, I was quite intentional. I want to minimize. It's just an authorization. It's not a big deal. It's not a charge. It won't be forever. So that word just is there intentionally. So here's what we know. The amount you are seeing, that $87, it's an authorization. Just an authorization. It is not a charge. You immediately go into what we've done. When you attempt a purchase or place an order, our computer system verifies your credit card account is valid and that you have the available funds in your account. The hold is equal to the amount of the transaction. Now, for the next part, what I like to do when a policy or a procedure is confusing is give customers an analogy, an example, something they can relate to, something that happens often. So that's what the next sentence is, next couple of sentences. For example, a person who swipes for $10 worth of fuel at a gas station will immediately have $10 less in their available credit. Our process works the same way. Whenever you're able to give an analogy or an example of something that most customers can relate to, it's easier, right? You bring in the clarity. So if you think it makes sense to your customers, use this analogy or come up with something that you think is even more relevant. But what you're trying to do in this step is explain, here's what's been done, what we've done or what the computer system has done. Then you go right into the final W, which is here's what's next. Authorization holds typically last from 1 to 5 days. However, in rare instances, some holds can last up to 30 days. When you paint a picture of what is next, you need to be transparent. You need to be crystal clear. You need to include every possible outcome. And for this answer, what I did is I just looked up, my own bank and my own experience as a consumer. But my bank actually states what you see here. An authorization typically will last 1 to 5 days. In rare instances, it may last longer, up to 30 days. And I do think that is rare, but if you explain that, then your customer has a realistic expectation of what is happening going forward. And that's it. You lead in with empathy, and then you handle the body of the interaction by explaining to your customer, here's what we know, here's what we've done, and here's what's next. In my experience, this formula, empathy combined with the 3W method, is going to bring the temperature down and guide your customer to the next steps. They may not love what you are saying. They won't love it, but they are more likely to accept it. Thank you so much for your question. I love sitting here and answering your questions. If this has been helpful to you, make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel so you are the first to know when I release a new video. Until next time.
That pain inside, don't wanna feel it. So I pour up inside my cup and I just sip till I can't feel it. I know it won't solve my problem, but I know it makes a difference. One more sip and I'ma fix it. Out my body when I'm